All right, everybody's seated, so let's go ahead and open the meeting. This is the Ventura County Local Agency Formation Commission's Wednesday, September the 20th at 9 o'clock in the morning. And at this point in time, we have a pledge of allegiance. And Janice, will you?
Hand over heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Janice. Okay, Rochelle, could you call the roll, please?
Please, sorry. Commissioner Avila?
Here.
Commissioner Crosswhite?
Here.
Commissioner Gorell?
Here.
Commissioner Parvin?
Here.
Commissioner Rooney?
Here.
Commissioner Zaragoza?
Here.
Chair Richards?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Hassan?
Here.
Thank you. Any consideration for the agenda review? I have some comments regarding that. Anybody have any interest on the change or adjustment of the agenda? I would request that we move items 17 and 18 before closed session, in as much as we'll adjourn from closed session.
So my only thing is, I have to leave by 11:45. So my only concern is, I don't know if I'll make it through closed session if we do everything
I don't mind.
before.
It's mainly receive and file on 17 and 18.
And we can make those items quick.
I'm unclear as to Commissioner Crosswhite, what she was asking.
Well, I just didn't know how long those last items were going to take, because I want to make sure that I'm here for when we do closed session. So I just didn't want to push that back any further than we needed to, but.
I'd like to honor Commissioner Crosswhite's recommendation on the agenda.
That's fine. Any other comments?
Commissioner Crosswhite, those will not take more than a couple minutes max for both of those items. So 17 is just correspondence received. It's just a receive and file. And then there's the executive officer's report, which I will keep very short. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to stay with the agenda as written. All right, thank you very much. And Rochelle, do we have any public comments on items?
No,
on
we
the
have
agenda?
nobody wishing to speak.
No public comments. Consent item. Any concerns with regards to the consent item? If no comments, I'll
move
a motion.
approval.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Any opposition? Hearing none. Thank you. Okay, we have public hearing items. Item number 10. Andrea.
Good morning. This is item number 10, the Sphere of Influence Review for the City of Santa Paula. This is a summary of the LAFCO requirements related to spheres of influence, including the requirement for the Commission to review the sphere every 5 years to reflect the probable physical boundary and service area of a local agency. These are LAFCO's determinations regarding an agency's sphere of influence, and they address present and planned land uses in the area, present and probable need for public facilities and services, present capacity of public facilities and adequacy of public services, the existence of any social or economic communities of interest, and for an update of a sphere of influence of a city or special district that provides public facilities or services related to sewers, municipal and industrial water or structural fire protection, the present and probable need for those public facilities and services of any disadvantaged unincorporated communities within the existing sphere of influence. The city of Santa Paula was incorporated in 1902, and it has a population of about 31,000. An in-depth MSR, or municipal service review, was conducted by the commission in 2018, and that evaluated the city's ability to provide services within its jurisdictional area and its sphere of influence. And that resulted in 2018 in a significant reduction of the city's sphere of influence in the Adams Canyon and Fagan Canyon areas to the north of the city. And this followed several years of the city intending to demonstrate to LAFCO that it had sufficiently planned for future development of this area. However, funding for that planning effort did not materialize. The current sphere of influence better aligns with the area planned for in the city's general plan, which does not include those expansion areas. Based on a review by LAFCO staff and consultation with city staff, the city's sphere of influence continues to reflect the current and probable service area of the city, and therefore no change in the city's sphere of influence is recommended today. The notice of public hearing was provided as required by LAFCO law, and no comments have been received. Staff recommends that the commission adopt a resolution making determinations and reviewing the sphere of influence for the city of Santa Paula, including that an update to the sphere of influence is not necessary. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Andrew, I have one. There's a Greenbelt agreement between Santa Paula and Ventura. Does that abut the sphere line?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, in the case of Ventura, it goes up to the sphere of influence as well as for Santa Paula. However, the areas in Adams Canyon and Fagan Canyon were removed from the Greenbelt long ago, so those areas are not. But otherwise, it does go up to the city's western boundary.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a question. So my understanding is we brought the sphere of influence review back in 2018, right? And that was 3 years earlier than was anticipated. So are we going to keep this now on a 5-year cycle from 18 to 23? Now we can look at it 5 years from now?
That's the expectation at this point, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Thank you. Moving on to item number 11.
Item number 11 is the municipal service review for the United Water Conservation District. This is a summary of LAFCO requirements related to spheres of influence again, including the requirement for the commission to review the sphere every 5 years to reflect the probable physical boundary and service area of a local agency. LAFCO is also required to conduct a municipal service review, or MSR, prior to or in conjunction with sphere of influence updates. LAFCO's determinations regarding MSRs address growth and population projections, location and characteristics of any disadvantaged unincorporated communities, the present and planned capacity of public facilities and adequacy of public services, the financial ability of agencies to provide services, the status of and opportunities for shared facilities, accountability for service, community service needs, and any other matter related to effective and efficient service delivery. The preparation of the MSR for the United Water Conservation District is part of a long-term effort to bring current the MSR reports for all 28 water and wastewater agencies, districts whose jurisdictional boundaries are set by LAFCO. And the most recent MSR for the district was conducted 18 years ago in 2005. This is the official map of the district and its location within the county. On the right, the yellow is the jurisdictional area of the district, and the sphere of influence, which is coterminous, is shown in red. The district's jurisdictional area spans from the Los Angeles-Ventura County line near the unincorporated community of Piru to the Pacific coast. Its service area includes Lake Piru, all of the Santa Clara River watershed, Piru, Fillmore, Santa Paula, Oxnard, Port Hueneme, and portions of Camarillo and Ventura. The district was formed in 1950. It is an independent district that is governed by a 7-member board of directors. It is authorized to provide services related to wholesale water provision, water treatment, agricultural water provision, groundwater management, water replenishment, and groundwater and surface water conservation throughout its entire service area, and also potable water, wastewater, and recreational services within the Lake Piru recreation area. And although the district provides a range of services, its primary role relates to water conservation and groundwater recharge, and its services related to recreation, wastewater, and water delivery are secondary to that primary purpose. The district's population is about 350,000, and its jurisdictional area is 332 square miles. The district's recreational services are limited to the Lake Piru recreation area in and surrounding the lake, which is owned and operated by the district as a reservoir used for water releases into the Santa Clara River for downstream groundwater recharge. Recreational services include boating, swimming, camping, provision of sports areas, hiking, day use, and a dog park. Average annual visitation to the Lake Piru recreation area is about 90,000 visitors. Wow. And about 3/4 of those are overnight campers, and the remaining quarter is for day use. Here's a photo of the Lake Piru campground along the western shore of the lake. Like recreation services, wastewater services are also limited to the Lake Piru recreation area. Facilities include 12 septic systems in support of various restrooms and other buildings, as well as 6 remote vault toilets, which are pumped out approximately twice annually. The district's water service area includes the entire jurisdictional area of the district. The predecessor to the district was the Santa Clara Water Conservation District, which was formed in response to overdraft conditions in local groundwater basins. The United Water Conservation District was formed in 1950 to conserve and enhance the water resources of the Santa Clara River while protecting the river's natural features. It implements its mission through the construction and operation of facilities and programs, which include the conservation of surface and groundwater resources through groundwater replenishment, potable water, the City of Oxnard, the Port Hueneme Water Agency, and mutual water companies, the Lake Piru recreation area, and several direct customers, as well as non-potable water in the Oxnard and Pleasant Valley areas. This map provides a general overview of the district's facilities that are directly related to the Santa Clara River. Lake Piru is filled naturally from Upper Piru Creek and also from rainfall, as well as with imported water from the State Water Project, which is fed to the lake from upstream Pyramid Lake, which is not shown on this map. It's just inside Los Angeles County. Water is then released from the lake at the Santa Felicia Dam and flows down into Lower Piru Creek and southwest along the river, where a portion of that water is diverted at the Freeman Diversion for groundwater recharge before reaching the Pacific Ocean near McGrath State Beach and the Ventura Harbor. Imported water is also sometimes conveyed to the district through Castaic Lake and into Castaic Creek, which feeds into the Santa Clara River in Los Angeles County. The Santa Felicia Dam is a key piece of infrastructure that is owned and operated by the district. This is the same map that you saw on the preceding slide, and it's shown here just to provide some context of its location within Ventura County. The Santa Felicia Dam is 4.5 miles northeast of the community of Piru. It was constructed in 1955 across Piru, and that created Lake Piru. It encourages the recharge of downstream groundwater basins to address declining groundwater levels, and it allows the district to provide strategic water releases into Lower Piru Creek to the Santa Clara River for beneficial use. Groundwater is then pumped in response to water demand, and also used as a buffer to combat seawater intrusion. Lake Piru captures surface winter and spring stormwater for later releases into Lower Piru Creek to recharge downstream groundwater resources along the river. The water sources within the lake are shown on this chart, and that includes stormwater runoff, which is the bulk of it at 90%, imported water from the state at 6%, and precipitation directly onto the surface of the lake, which is 4%. Here's a view of the Santa Felicia Dam on the right, with Lake Piru behind and the spillway leading to Lower Piru Creek. The Vern Freeman diversion is another significant piece of the district's infrastructure downstream of Lake Piru along the Santa Clara River, shown on this map. The diversion is east of the unincorporated community of Saticoy, and it was constructed in 1991 across the Santa Clara River. It's 25 feet tall and spans 1,200 feet across, and it redirects a portion of river flow to spreading basins to support groundwater recharge and buffer against seawater intrusion. It diverts an average of 58,000 acre-feet per year of river flow, and throughout its existence has diverted approximately 1.7 million acre-feet of water. Here's a photo of the Freeman diversion at the river near Saticoy, looking upstream towards Santa Paula. The district currently operates 2 groundwater recharge facilities, and these consist of those in Saticoy and El Rio. The spreading grounds facilitate natural percolation in order to replenish the aquifers and support increased water volume available for beneficial uses, and also contribute to the dilution of nitrate concentrations in the groundwater. This is a summary of groundwater management in the Oxnard Plain Basin. Groundwater overdraft was first recognized in the 1930s in the Oxnard Plain. Water levels were recorded below sea level, and there were observations of elevated chloride in wells along the coast near Port Hueneme. The State Department of Water Resources, known as DWR, has classified the Oxnard Plain Basin as being critically overdrafted. The Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency, or Fox Canyon GMA, was formed in 1991, and it manages the aquifers in the basin. Fox Canyon controls the groundwater extractions, and United focuses on groundwater recharge activities. The Fox Canyon GMA adopted Emergency Ordinance E in 2014, which resulted in a 20% reduction on allowed groundwater extractions over a 2-year period, and that impacted the district's Oxnard-Hueneme pipeline service. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, known as SGMA, was also enacted by the state in 2014, and that resulted in the preparation of the Oxnard Subbasin Groundwater Sustainability Plan, known as a GSP. And that GSP established that pumping restrictions were necessary in order to achieve sustainable management of the Oxnard Plain Basin, and resulted in a new ordinance and allocation which involved annual allocation cutbacks, and also established that sustainability should be supported through the development of water supply projects to minimize or eliminate the need for future pumping reductions, and United is heavily involved in that. Since 1971, United has been entitled to 5,000 acre-feet per year of imported water delivered through the State Water Project by DWR. 1,850 acre-feet per year of that 5,000 is permanently leased to the Port Hueneme Water Agency, which operates under a joint powers agreement and supplies water to the city of Port Hueneme, Channel Islands Beach Community Services District, and Naval Base Ventura County. Imported water deliveries are taken from the state in either of 2 ways, either through Pyramid Lake into Lake Piru, then Lower Piru Creek and the Santa Clara River, or alternatively from Castaic Lake into Castaic Creek and into the Santa Clara in Los Angeles County. The district prefers to take delivery through Pyramid Lake into Lake Piru because it allows for more control over timing and volume of those water releases into the river. On occasion, the district does have the opportunity to take additional water supplies from the state, and this year was able to purchase over 2,000 acre-feet this year. The district has several water service systems, both potable and non-potable. The first is the Lake Piru water system at the Lake Piru Recreation Area, and also the Oxnard-Hueneme pipeline, known as the OH system, which involves 12 wells within the El Rio well field and serves potable water to the Oxnard and Port Hueneme areas. Non-potable systems include the Pumping Trough Pipeline, or PTP, that provides surface water from the Santa Clara and from wells for agricultural use within the Oxnard Plain, and also the Pleasant Valley Pipeline, or PVP, which provides non-potable water from the Santa Clara River for ag use within the Oxnard Plain and Pleasant Valley areas. This map is somewhat similar to the one that was shown previously, and its purpose is to show the location of the district's water delivery systems, consisting of the Lake Piru water system, the Oxnard-Hueneme pipeline, the Pumping Trough pipeline, and the Pleasant Valley pipeline. About 93% of demand on the OH system, the Oxnard-Hueneme system, is generated from the city of Oxnard, the Port Hueneme Water Agency, and mutual water companies, and the remaining 7% is minor retail distribution and system losses. The OH pipeline water supply depends on the Fox Canyon GMA extraction allocation, as well as requirements of the State Water Resources Control Board. The OH pipeline's current allocation is 14,337 acre-feet per year, with annual cutbacks that are expected at about 2.6% until the point where sustainability is anticipated to be reached. This is the actual and projected water delivery volumes in acre-feet for each of the district's 3 customer-serving water systems. You can see the OH pipeline being the most significant, next the PTP, and finally the PVP. This table represents the historical and projected groundwater pumping by all parties, including cities throughout the entire service area of the district. The district is involved in many capital improvement projects, including the State Water Project Interconnection Project, which is being led by the city of Ventura in order to bring imported water to the city. The district is also set to benefit from that additional pipeline that will be bringing imported water to the West County area. The Santa Felicia Dam Safety Improvement Project, the Freeman Diversion Expansion Project, the Extraction Barrier Brackish Water Treatment Project, which your commission heard about a few months ago from district staff, and also the Iron and Manganese Treatment Plant, which went online last week. The district is also involved in habitat conservation efforts. It is developing a habitat conservation plan to protect several species that are under protection, and that will occur at the Freeman Diversion and the nearby groundwater recharge facilities, and includes a new fish passage facility at the Freeman Diversion. The district is coordinating with the National Marine Fisheries Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the California Department of Fish and Game. And also, the district is continuing to manage the invasive quagga mussels at Lake Piru, which were identified there in 2013. The notice of public hearing was not required for the MSR, but was provided in order to give additional opportunities for public participation. The final draft of the MSR was posted on the LAFCO website last Thursday, and no comments have been received. Staff recommends that the commission adopt a resolution to accept the MSR for the United Water Conservation District with any modifications made by the commission, and make statements of determinations as required by LAFCO law, authorize the executive officer to make any necessary non-substantive changes to the report, and direct staff to prepare and distribute the final MSR to all affected local agencies. And that concludes my presentation, and we also have staff from the district available, the Assistant General Manager, Tony Emmert, in case there are questions specific to him.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions?
Quick question, probably had nothing to do with the MSR, but how are we doing with the quagmire issue there, Lake Piru? I know that was a big issue there for a while.
I think it continues to be.
Can Tony give us a little bit of information on that? And I know that I was just over the other day for the iron and manganese ribbon cutting the other day, which is really fantastic.
We really appreciate that. Good morning, LAFCO Board, Director Zaragoza. In answer to the quagga mussel question, it is still a problem at Lake Piru and many of the other lakes around. It's a highly resilient species, and it's unlikely we're going to be able to get rid of it. Several years ago, as you recall, we attempted to, when water levels were low, attempted to do a chemical treatment of the
That's
lake,
right.
but we were actually very successful getting I guess it would be called off-label approval from the US EPA. However, we were not able to get approval from the National Marine Fisheries Service because they were concerned that it might have negative impact on the smelling ability of trout in the area. So that pretty much took care of that effort.
Yeah, there for a while, we were concerned that it was really going to contaminate the potable water for all of us, you know. But
It appears that our area is not as hospitable as some of its more native areas and areas that it really likes, but Lake Piru is itself has the right water quality and temperature and characteristics that it looks like a population is going to continue to survive there. So we're continuing to work with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, who has jurisdiction on that, as well as U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. But at this point, I would say it's a population control effort to keep that population low and to keep it from spreading. There's a very extensive boat inspection system. We feel that that's how we got that back in 2013 from somebody who came from Lake Havasu. All of those Colorado River lakes have been infested for years. And as this board probably knows, people that have boats like to visit multiple lakes, and to our detriment, we probably did not do as thorough a job of tracking those. We're now involved in a region-wide data sharing system where when a boat leaves Lake Havasu, we know it if it shows up at our front gate. But back in 2013, that system wasn't developed yet. So.
And lastly, I just want to thank United, because when I was supervisor when we had the major drought, the United really helped out the 8 mutuals there at Del Rio, because the water table was all the way down to the bottom, which was really bad. But you guys saved a lot of water mutuals there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Ann?
Thank you. I have 2 questions. Mr. Emmett, don't sit down yet. So there's activity going on at Rice and Fifth. I see there's a lot of pipelines in the field there. Is that your project that's going on in preparation for the flyover?
Rice and Fifth.
You have a pumping station there?
I don't believe that's us just yet.
Okay.
There is the Great Separation Project that will be coming up, and there will be quite a bit of work that is involved there. But I don't believe we have any construction in progress at that location
Okay.
now.
I thought I saw about a 6-inch pipeline sitting down in the field there the other day, so.
Probably not us yet.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. The other question is for LAFCO staff. My question is, does LAFCO have any role regarding any board members' actions? For instance, in this case, United Water.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Does LAFCO have any role in any of the board members that conduct their business as part of their role as a board member? Does LAFCO have any authority or any role to play in any of the board members' actions?
Over individual board member actions?
Yep.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Janice?
I have a couple questions. First one is the 6 remote vault toilet facilities. Right now, they're being the sewage is being transferred to Carson. That's probably not a you question, maybe he. Well, it's a you question too, because you did a very comprehensive report here. In fact, it was the most interesting one I have ever read on LAFCO. It really was. It was just filled with data, really important data that we're gonna need as we move forward, and Commissioner Raul knows, we went to that water meeting last Friday. And during that meeting, we talked about we need to know what each other's cities, what the water districts, all the connections, we need to know all of that in case of an emergency. So this is the kind of data they need, and you did all the work.
Thank you, appreciate that.
So my question is, why are we going to Carson? Isn't there a closer location? I know it doesn't seem significant because it's just 6, but there isn't anything closer.
My understanding is that the reason why that happened was that there was the explosion at the Santa Clara
Yeah.
facility, and so that was the option that the district had. They may be able to, or Mr. Emmett may be able to answer more questions about what was involved in selecting the location that they did.
No, I get that they selected it, there is no other option. I mean, he's shaking his head, no, there's no other option. And there's an option going forward that's in the future that keeps it closer, less truck traffic.
I don't know. I think the only option would be to truck it to one of the public facilities in one of the cities. That would, of course, require LAFCO approval of an out-of-agency
Well, I'm sure
service
LAFCO
agreement.
would probably be fond of that
Well,
idea.
yeah, absolutely, if that's the case. This is an existing facility, and if they were unable to transport that effluent off-site, it would pose a threat to health and safety. So I think LAFCO would absolutely be able to make those findings to do that. But again, that's up to the district on how they want to handle that.
Okay. So my second comment was related to the fish passage, because you currently have a fish passage there. Is this going to be an expansion to that or brand new? Just brand new and you're getting rid of that one? I'm sorry, I can't read your lips.
I'll let him answer that.
Yeah, and how many fish are going through there? Do you have a fish counter?
Director Parvin, you are correct in your observation that if approved, and I say if because there are probably thousands of pages of permit application involved in this, and
Well, more fun reading for
I
us.
I believe about $12 million worth of effort so far in trying to get
Wow.
it permitted. But it would be a complete replacement of the fish passage facility we have. So I believe that my boss maybe talked about this at a previous meeting, but the fish passage was built into the Freeman diversion in 1991 with participation, actually, and specifications provided by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife at the time. National Marine Fisheries Service was not too involved. Since that time, steelhead trout has been listed as an anadromous species, so they both live in the watershed, and a portion of them go back and forth to the ocean. And they are actively moving. We saw quite a few in our detection facility this year. So we detect them as they, it's kind of like the Magic Mountain roller coaster when you're going down the big slope and you either smile or make a face when the camera catches your picture. That's sort of how it operates at the Freeman Diversion. We detect motion and have 2 cameras that take a picture of the fish, and then we watch that video data afterwards and identify and work with the agencies. So counter to popular belief, the existing fish ladder does work, but as you're aware, sometimes sometimes the Santa Clara River is a tiny trickle, like you see today, and sometimes it's very large. And so the new facility would be designed to work through a wider flow range. So ours works very, very well under about 1,000 cubic feet per second. And I would contest anybody who says it doesn't. It does work very, very well. But the new facility will be designed to operate up to 6,000 cubic feet per second, which is quite a bit of water moving. And it will be out in the middle of the river. So it will be what's called a hardened ramp, which will be about 100 feet wide and 400 feet long, and will be the first place that water passes. So theoretically, those are much easier for fish to see in dirty water and turbulence. But very difficult and very expensive, and an incredible design that's going forth on this. So more to come on that one.
I think they just take pictures. and-
few?
Yeah, he said quite a few.
I heard it was like 2 last year.
Last year, you're correct. Last year,
Really?
there were 2 adults that were detected. And this year, I believe there were around 20. And I do not know if they were the ocean-going ones or they were just trout that were in the watershed. Last year, the 2 we saw were pretty big fish. So they were on the range of, 2 to 3 feet in length. So ones that probably pretty, we don't stop them and get to question them and check their identification. That's something that we may be able to do in the future with a scientific collection
Stop and
permit.
talk to them, you said?
Well, see if you have any money left after you build it, right?
I sure hope so. So we would appreciate any support and grant applications to get some of this funded, so it's not all on the local residents. But yeah, the fish this year were all of a smaller size, more in the range of a foot long. So we don't know if those were ones that had been in the ocean or were ones that were just moving up and down the watershed.
Jenny, I believe you had a question?
Thank you.
First, a comment to follow up on that. I support any grants that they can get because apparently what we get now is called cheap water, and that's going away, and it's not cheap. So anyway, I support lots of grants for these infrastructure projects. But my question is, it talks in the packet about the Santa Felicia Dam being classified as an extreme high hazard with Libya and what happened there. I think it's all on our minds, what happens if a dam breaks. So why is it classified that way, and what's the timeline for fixing that?
Director Crosswhite, that's an excellent question. It is classified by it's a division of the Department of Water Resources in the state called the Division of Safety of Dams. And they review and evaluate all dams in the state, and there are quite a few of them. Santa Felicia is one of them, and their recently updated classification code is based upon the number of population and the value of property below the dam, should it have a catastrophic failure. And there are clearly many people who live below Santa Felicia Dam. We're unfortunately one of the regions in the state that did actually experience a dam failure in 1928 with the city of Los Angeles' failure. And at least 600 people died, many in the city of Santa Paula and the very valley that my agency supports. So United has taken this extremely seriously. We are at 90% design on the seismic rehab, which is probably the biggest risk. The second risk we're designing for is I call it kind of the Noah's Ark flood in the watershed. That facility is designed, the spillway is designed for, I believe, 120,000 CFS. The most we've ever measured was a little over 40,000 CFS in 1969. So it actually has an existing pretty good factor of safety, but the new factor of safety will take us up to about 220,000 cubic feet per second. But we've prioritized the seismic one because I think clearly the risk of an earthquake in that area is the preeminent thing that we want to prepare for. And that era of that kind of earth fill dam, it was fairly common to put the conduit right under the earth fill. And if you have an earthquake large enough, the earth fill can slough a little bit and could perhaps fracture or cause a separation of that pipeline that goes through the middle. It's kind of a scary tunnel to go in. It's 600 feet long, and there's a big ginormous valve in there that operators have to check every time there's an earthquake. They go in there and inspect everything. But it's the weak point of that design. And so that is the top priority to get that replaced. So unfortunately, at this point, we have National Marine Fisheries Service has intervened in this process at the 90% design level and is wanting to hold the Human Safety Project hostage for for fish passage considerations, which we've vigorously opposed, and we would appreciate any kind of consideration for the human safety portion of this moving forward, because
Well, it's a good thing you came to this meeting so you could share all the terrifying things that are going on there.
so we are, if we're able to get our permits, we will start construction next year, so as early as 2024 summer. And that'll be a several-year project. So we can come back and provide an update if this board wishes as we move forward.
Mr. Chair, if I may, it almost begs the question of whether this board should ask staff to come back with some recommendations on how this body could take a stronger position on that national policy, perhaps vote to send a letter to the National Marine Fisheries, NOAA, or our congressional delegation, asking them to take very seriously the current status, which is that the project design is held up because of this, and given the context of Libya and other challenges like that, I think it would make sense for probably this board to potentially consider opining on it. But I just open that up for dialogue.
I do too. And what you need to do, Commissioner Gorell, is to use the word direct staff to bring it back. So if that's your motion.
I just wanted to raise the question because LAFCO, this may not be the right commission to do it. It may be the board, but it's being raised, and I feel like it's being raised to this commission, and it maybe makes sense. I'm giving it, before I make a motion, I wanted to take the temperature of the rest of the commission.
This probably aligns with the LAFCO legislative policies as well.
Yeah.
So it could go under that.
Well, then in that case, I'd move. I'd
To
make the-
direct
I'd make
staff.
the motion to direct staff to evaluate the best course of action to bring back to this commission so that we can communicate a responsible position on that particular issue.
I'll second that.
Does that include the motion to accept the
the
MSR?
I think Commissioner Crosswhite raised the whole conundrum, and so I think she was the second on that. Did you? I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to take that away, but what was it? What was the
I think,
follow-up?
I think you should break them apart because one is to direct staff to come back with some options, and then a second motion to accept the MSR.
Correct.
That item.
There's not necessarily a need to make a motion to direct staff. If the commission desires staff to do that, we will make that happen.
I do think it's important to make sure that the rest of the commission feels comfortable directing staff to do that. So I would ask Chair to consider a formal action on it.
Okay, we can do a formal action. Just one final question. How close is the dam to the Oak Ridge fault line?
That's a good question, Director Richards. I would say it's definitely within 10 miles, and there's a San Cayetano fault that's perhaps closer.
Well, that's the fault that created a lot of damage in the communities of Santa Paula and Fillmore during the 93 earthquake.
Correct?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we're at high risk with regards to that dam. So, thank you.
There was a
Yeah.
motion and a second on the table to direct staff to do that, so
Okay, we have
call
a
for the question.
motion and a second. All those in favor to direct staff with regards to the letter?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Anybody in opposition? Hearing none. We have that motion pass.
I move acceptance of the MSR.
I'll second.
And we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none. Thank you. Andrea, number 12.
Item number 12 is the sphere of influence review for the United Water Conservation District. And again, the summary of the requirements by LAFCO regarding spheres of influence. And here again is the list of LAFCO's required determinations regarding an agency sphere. The sphere review for the district is based in large part upon the determinations in the MSR that your commission just accepted in the previous item. A map again of the district, jurisdictional boundary and sphere of influence. The notice of public hearing was provided as required in LAFCO law, and no comments have been received. And staff recommends that your commission adopt a resolution making determinations and reviewing the sphere of influence for the United Water Conservation District pursuant to LAFCO law, including that a sphere of influence update is not necessary. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Hearing none.
I'll move staff's recommendation,
I'll second.
unless there's any speakers on the item.
I have a discussion.
All right, I have a motion and a second.
I'd like to ask a question
Is there a question?
of Andrea. I have seen the sphere of influence that you created, and it still says current as of January 20, 2016. Is it, nothing has been done after that? Is it the same thing?
No changes have been made
Then
since that
Shouldn't
time.
it say 2023?
It will.
That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Item 13, action items. Mr. Loma.
Good morning, Commission. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation is to approve and direct the chair to execute an audit services contract with Eide Bailey for the fiscal year ended June 30th of this year in an amount not to exceed $13,000. Typically, we begin the audit in January, and it's usually finished around March, but due to several delays last year, the county auditor controller suggested that we speed up the process and start the process early this year, and Eide Bailey was amenable to that. So we are recommending that we start that process this month with this engagement letter. Thank you.
Any questions of staff?
Move approval.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Thank you. On to agenda item 14.
Okay, thank you. This is agenda item number 14. These are proposed amendments to the Commission's reserve and/or fund balance policies. As you'll probably recall, in April of this year, during consideration of the proposed budget, there was some discussion among commissioners about whether the Commission's reserve policies were adequate to cover any unexpected costs or revenue shortfalls during that fiscal year. And the Commission did direct staff to review these policies for their adequacy and return with any amendments that we might be recommending. So the Commission has 3 policies regarding reserves. These are just a summary of those. The first is a contingency reserve. And this policy requires that the annual budget shall include a contingency appropriation of 10% of total operating expenses, unless the Commission deems a different amount appropriate. And the Commission has at times deemed a 5% contingency reserve as appropriate, but the policies do usually call for a 10%. And then regarding unassigned fund balance, the Commission will maintain an unassigned fund balance in the general fund of approximately 60 days working capital. Now, again, that's unassigned. And then there's a litigation reserve account, and that policy provides that it is the goal of the Commission to establish and maintain a litigation reserve account balance in the amount of $100,000. And again, this is for any legal actions that might be taken against the Commission. So we looked at the contingency reserved policy, which provides for 10% of total operating expenses, and the unassigned fund balance, which sets aside 60 days operating expenses. And the 60 days is equivalent to 27% of total operating expenses. So when you combine those two, it's essentially a 37% reserve of total operating expenses. We tried to factor or try to consider the worst possible scenario that the commission might come across during any given year that would be the worst case scenario for an unaccounted for expense. And in consultation with the auditor controller, we determined that the reserves of 37% would be expected to be adequate to cover any unanticipated costs or revenue shortfalls. The worst case scenario would be, it's a hypothetical situation where all staff maxed out on its vacation time, and then all staff quit at the same time, requiring the commission to fund the payment of all that vacation. And 37% was more than adequate to do that. So staff recommends no change to these policies as they are adequate. Now, regarding the litigation reserve account, this policy does require that the commission set aside $100,000 for each budget to fund this account. Now, this policy was established in 2011, and it has not been changed since. Due to inflation, the $100,000 in 2011 is equivalent to $135,000 today. So we are recommending that the commission amend this policy to increase the amount to be funded to $135,000. That's just to cover inflation. And then for future inflation changes, we are recommending that the modification include a provision that the amount for this fund be adjusted each year, consistent with the U.S. Consumer Price Index. That way we know that the amount here will always be adjusted for inflation. And on top of that, we are recommending that the commission authorize the transfer of the $35,000 from unassigned fund balance to the litigation reserve account. So the $35,000 increase will not cost our funding agencies anything. It will come out of unassigned fund balance, which we have about $173,000 there now. So that'll go down to about $130,000. So that's the recommendation, and this is the policy as amended as we are recommending. So that concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Kai. Any comments to staff? Any questions? Nope. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve staff's recommendations.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Item 15.
This item is just regarding the attendance of the alternate commissioners during the closed session item today. We do recommend that the commission determine that the alternate commissioners do have an essential role to play in the closed session and thus may attend the closed session.
I believe we need a motion on this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions of staff? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Thank you. We have some correspondence.
Correspondence is just a receive and file, a letter from Olga Damascus dated August 28th, 2023.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. I don't know about any other commissioners, but I'm perplexed as to why we keep receiving comments regarding Bell Canyon. And as my question earlier today was, does LAFCO have a role in any of the board members' actions? The answer is no. And so I'm wondering why we are keeping to putting records in the file about board members' actions, in the Bell Canyon matter. So if you could help me understand that.
Right, and we don't review the content of comment letters, and we're required by law that comment letters that are addressed to the commission be provided to the commission, and the correspondence received is the opportunity that we give these comments to the commission. So LAFCO staff is not weighing in on them. We have not reviewed them for accuracy. We don't necessarily agree with them, but we cannot prevent members of the public from submitting comment letters.
Have you provided any comments back to Ms. Damascus about whether they're germane to LAFCO or not?
No, it's really not my role to do that. The comment letters submitted to the commission can be on any topic and from anybody, and we are required to provide them to the commission.
You have a question, Al? Mohammed, do you have a question?
I have a comment after all the meetings, I wanted to do what Commissioner Parvin said about the staff report on United, because I'm really impressed how well it was put together, especially how simplified version for everybody to understand. I really appreciate it.
All right, we're still on agenda item 15. We need a motion.
You're at 17.
I have a motion on 15.
I'll make the motion to receive and file the letter. Well, we don't need a motion for that, right?
Let's just receive and file.
It's just
Receive and
receive and
file.
file.
We don't
Receive and
require that.
file.
Right. So item 8, are we on item 18? Okay.
18.
And it's just nothing much more to add beyond the anticipated future agenda items, except we do have the CalAFCO conference on October 18th through 20th. The commission, of course, earlier today canceled the October meeting, so the next meeting will be November 15th.
15, too.
And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Kai, appreciate it. And I believe we adjourn to closed session at this point in time.